He thought he was coming home. We all do, until silence answers the door. Dust where memories once lived. In the Southern Air Temple, Aang doesn't just visit a ruined sanctuary. He finds a truth you can't unsee. Have you ever gone looking for something you lost? A place, a version of yourself, hoping it might still be there? At first, it looks like an adventure. The skies are bright. Appa soars above the clouds. Aang's smile is wide with anticipation. He's coming home, to the place of his childhood, to the monastery where he was raised, to the monks who once guided him with warmth and pie and sky games. And so he rushes, because nothing says inner peace, like sprinting toward a war zone in denial. He rushes because hope is still possible. Because maybe, just maybe, the war didn't reach that high. Maybe the temple's too remote, too sacred, too hidden to have been touched by fire. You can almost believe it with him. You want to. That's the beginning of denial. It's not ignorance. It's love, disguised as logic. He tells himself, the Fire Nation doesn't have flying bison. They couldn't have gotten there. No one's seen airbenders for 100 years, but that doesn't mean they're gone. Not really. And maybe you've done that too. Not with temples or sky bison, but with people or places or versions of yourself you weren't ready to lose. We all do it. Illusion buys us time. One more day of peace before the truth arrives. Maybe it's still the same. Maybe it's not as bad as it looks. Maybe if I go back, it'll feel right again. Because facing what's really gone, that asks too much. It's not just grief, it's disorientation. It's letting go of a world that once made sense and walking forward without a map. We all crave that. But this episode isn't about preservation, it's about collapse. You came for a temple tour, you get a grief spiral. Welcome to Avatar. As Aang skips through the corridors, he points out playgrounds and dormitories. He laughs, but you can feel the gap between past and present widening like a chasm. He says, that's where the bison slept, but the stables are empty. He says, this is where we played airball, but the court is overgrown with weeds. Katara tries to warn him. Just be prepared, she says gently. Things may have changed. But Aang shakes it off. He needs to believe. Because some truths are so big, you can't let them in all at once. You have to edge toward them. And that's what this whole episode is. A slow approach toward the unbearable. You can feel it in your body, the way Aang keeps moving, keeps smiling, keeps pointing things out. You've done it. When you weren't ready to feel yet. When you needed just one more second of pretending everything was okay. This isn't denial out of ignorance. It's denial out of mercy. And that's why this episode hurts so differently when you're older. Because you realize, sometimes the last person to know the truth is the one who needs it most. What happens when the past you depended on is gone? Not changed, not distant, gone. This is the episode where Aang stops being a child on an adventure and becomes a survivor. This is when he finds out what the Fire Nation really took. Not just history, not just peace, but his people, his family, his identity, and it shatters him. As an adult, you see it more clearly. You realize that what Aang is going through isn't just sadness, it's grief. Pure, unfiltered grief. The kind you don't cry through, the kind that hollows you out, the kind that makes you kneel in the ruins of a world you thought would never end and ask, who am I now? The moment he sees the necklace, the robes, the bones, everything stops. There are no words for it, just silence. And then the scream of wind. He enters the Avatar state, but this isn't power. This is pain. This is what happens when truth crashes through the walls of your mind all at once. And the show doesn't flinch. It lets the devastation sit there, real and raw. No one saves Aang. No one fixes it. Because some things can't be fixed. They can only be faced. It's tempting to think of denial as weakness, but it isn't. It's the first shield we hold up when reality comes swinging. Aang needed his illusions. needed to believe he might see Monk Gyatso again, because to know the truth too soon would have broken him. But denial has a cost. When you hold it too long, the truth doesn't knock. It erupts, violently, with glowing eyes and screaming winds, with shattered roofs and grief that won't stay quiet anymore. And when it happens, it doesn't just break you, it remakes you. If you've ever fallen apart in a moment that felt too big for your body, this is that moment. The scream you didn't let out, the silence you collapsed into, the moment you realized the thing you loved was never coming back. This isn't just Aang's grief, it's your own, replayed in a sacred temple with wind and glowing eyes. And even if you didn't have a name for it back then, you know now, that was the beginning of something new. This is what the Avatar state represents here. Not transcendence, but trauma, a psychic overload, a heart that cannot contain what it has just learned. As adults, we all go through this. Maybe not in temples, maybe not with glowing tattoos, but in breakups, in diagnoses, in funerals, in moments when the world stops making sense. And when it does, we react just like Aang. We explode, we freeze, we go silent. We cry in places no one can see. We forget how to be ourselves. We forget who we're supposed to be. And that's okay, because grief doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means you loved. It means you lost something worth mourning. And that's a form of courage, too. The episode gives us one lifeline, Katara. She doesn't offer advice. She doesn't try to cheer him up. She just says, "We're your family now." Not a replacement, not a fix, just presence. That's the real answer to grief. Not solutions, but solidarity. Not healing in one swoop, but knowing someone will sit beside you while you learn how to breathe again. The Southern Air Temple was always meant to be sacred. A place where young airbenders came to learn, to laugh, to grow. Now it's a tomb. But this episode plants something else there, too. The beginning of a new story. Because even in this graveyard, something begins again. A lemur appears. A name is given. Momo. A friend is made, not to replace the old, but to say, "I'm still here. I still have the capacity to connect. Even after this." That's the hidden truth this episode whispers. The past may be gone, but love, real love, is not bound by time. It's what endures. It's what rebuilds. In the final moments, Aang looks back at the temple as they fly away. He knows now what he didn't want to believe before. He really is the last airbender. But he also knows something else. He doesn't have to carry that truth alone. So what do we take from this? That grief is not the end of your story. That the truth, however painful, is not your enemy. And that even when everything familiar has been burned to ash, you are still allowed to hope. Not blindly, not in denial, but bravely, with eyes open, with heart cracked, with softness intact. That's what makes Aang who he is. Not just his bending, not just his lineage, but his willingness to feel, to break, and to keep going anyway. Have you ever stood in the ruins of something you loved? What helped you face it? If this episode spoke to something in you, leave a like. It helps thoughtful fans find this space. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. We're walking through these moments together, because the truth may hurt, but it also frees. Maybe that's what the wind was always trying to teach him, that even in ruins, you can still rise. And that's the first step to healing.